Okay, so we're going to change gears just a little bit because instead of talking specifically about this study, I want to talk a little bit about data a little more broadly and tell you a little bit about CivicLEADS at ICPSR. So if you're not familiar with ICPSR, this will be a millisecond view of our history. We started in 1962 and we're part of the Institute for Social Research at the University of Michigan. ICPSR, we never say our full name because it makes almost as much sense as just 5 letters, but we are the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research, and that basically means that around the world there are 750 different academic institutions which are all members of this membership organization, and we share data with each other. It is housed at the University of Michigan, but ultimately in the cloud. And we have over 250,000 data files from 10,000 different studies. And some of them go back to the 50s and 60s, and others were just in the field in 2017. So we have quite a broad variety of data. And specifically, I want to talk to you about CivicLEADS. CivicLEADS stands for Civic Learning, Engagement, and Action Data Sharing. So we are a centralized repository for multidisciplinary research. So we understand that civic learning, civic education, civic action data are generated in education, political science, sociology, communication. Tons of different disciplines are looking at these same questions, and we want to bring together data from all of those and allow folks from different disciplines to study the same data sets through a different lens. And that's one of the reasons we're excited to be here, to share the data which Joe and Kathy and Ben and their team have been looking at, and now we want to bring it to all of you because you have different lenses and different questions and new opportunities to look at these data in a new way. So our main objective is to disseminate high quality data to researchers for secondary analysis. We internally at CivicLEADS, as well as our funder, the Spencer Foundation, we understand that there are really good quality data sets out there that have a lot of miles left on them. There's a lot of research that can still be done with them, and we want to encourage folks to look at the data in a new way, rather than banging their head against the wall, trying to go into the field to get a really small sample and go through all of the hoops of IRB and funding and all of that when there's really good data sets that can answer your questions already. So we're trying to bring together some high quality data sets for you folks to look at. We are also trying to create some semblance of a learning community. We don't have an active message board and listserv, and we don't have quarterly meetings or anything in the traditional sense of a learning community, but we are trying to bring people together from different disciplines to think about some questions around civic learning and action. We are currently in the 3rd year of our project. As I mentioned before, we're funded through the Spencer Foundation, and our website was just launched last year. Currently we have 11 studies that were released by CivicLEADS, but then we also have links to studies that exist in other parts of ICPSR as well. So I mentioned our website was launched in a very high-tech way. Here is a slide with a picture of our website. This is an old presenter's trick of when you never know if the conference Wi-Fi is going to work. So here's a picture of our website. And as you can see, it's very data-centric. So we put a big old search bar right in the middle to say, search for data. And when you do search for data, this is what you get. So some search results that you can filter in a variety of ways. You can look at some different levels of restriction. Currently, we have no restricted data at CivicLEADS, but we anticipate that as time goes by, there may be some studies that have you know, higher levels of disclosure risk or confidential data that need to have a layer of restriction. But you can filter by time period and different subject terms and geographies as well. Beyond looking at studies, you can also search by variable. So for instance, if you were looking at mobilization, like Peter brought up earlier, you could search for mobilization. You could search for any keyword that you want to find in a variable, because maybe you don't want to look at a full study, but you'll find within a data set there's actually a number of variables that meet your needs. You just didn't know that that study title would bring you to those variables. So as you can see right now, I searched for politics and it returned 4,284 variables. So not a very helpful search, because that's a lot of variables to wade through, but hopefully you're not just going to search for politics. You'll search for something a little, you know, more nuanced than that. In addition to studies and variables, you can also search for publications. So every study that we have at ICPSR, we've got related publications. Anything that has used our data sets to get a publication or presentation or dissertation, anything that's been related to one of our data sets gets put into our publication database. And you can do that in a number of ways. You could look at those related publications to find out or to brainstorm some new research questions, but you could also use it kind of as a backdoor into the data set. So if you find a paper that was really intriguing and you're like, but wait, that leaves me with these 5 questions, what about this? Then you can look at the same data set that the authors used and you know, begin your research on it. The other thing to think about too is then if you use our research, we hope that you would cite it. Here's the citation for the YPP study, the first wave that's available at CivicLEADS. And here's how you cite it in your paper when you do the secondary analysis. And then we also hope that you will send us an email and say, you know, I just used the data set and published it, and then we'll add you to the related publications as well. Hopefully, our bibliographer will find you, regardless if you email us or not, because you will have cited it this way, and we'll find you based on the DOI. But anyways, our hope is that you'll cite the data, and that will become part of the related data sets and kind of continue the cycle of the research community. But as I said, this is the study homepage for the first wave of the YPP survey. And just to give you a little bit of structure of how our homepages look, we've got the title and the summary, as well as all of the different links. So depending on what software package you like to use, we've got all the major stats packages available, and you can look at the data in SAS, in R, etc. There's also, if this were a real web page, I could scroll down and you would see that there's a study-specific variable search tool. So the variable search that we looked at throughout the whole archive, you can search specifically within this one and say, hey, did the first wave of YPP have anything about mobilization? And you can search for it that way. So that's all kind of a handy way to navigate studies and determine if a study might be the right fit for you and your research question. Another thing you'll notice is we have an online or an Analyze Online link. And so if you click on that, you will be prompted to log in to ICPSR. Our user accounts are free. There may be 5 or 6 questions about you and your affiliation and your email address. And at this point, the My Data account is what we call it. It doesn't have a lot of perks for the user, but as we're moving forward into the future, we are adding more and more things. So for instance, if a data set is updated because we found errata, we will notify the folks that have signed on, downloaded the data, and are using that specific data set. Another thing is if there are multiple data sets that you're interested in, you can have like a favorites area within your account. So those are all things that we will be providing in the future. Currently, the My Data account is just your gateway to getting into the data. So whether you're downloading it or using the online analysis tool, you need an account. You can also link it to your any of your social media accounts or to an ORCID ID. This is what the online analysis tool looks like. If you're familiar with SDA, we're not the originators of it, but it's a good way for us to present data to you, and you don't have to have a stats package on your computer. You can run some pretty decent analyses using these, and it's also just really great for exploratory analysis to find out, do I want to download the data or not? Well, most of you I've been in email contact with once, if not dozens of times leading up to today. So you already have my email address. Our director is Susan Jekelek, and she's been instrumental in putting together this workshop and putting together the CivicLEADS archive in general. So she's always available if you have questions or ideas for her. And again, we're at civicleads.org.